Obviously a very solid ball game, a game in which we, again, never trailed. If you had come to this game, and maybe you've seen the other 5 home games, or maybe you've seen every Big Sky game for the last 51 years, you will have saw something today that you would never have seen before, which is an offense that at the end of 12 games has gained more yards in the history of the conference in a 12-game schedule than has ever been done before. That outstrips all of those Walter Payton Award winners. That outstrips all of those offensive coordinators now who are in big-time programs. That outstrips every player, every guard, every tackle, every center, every tight end. It outstrips every head coach. It outstrips every president. It outstrips every athletic director. It outstrips every facility. I can't go on and on enough about how historic this season has been, simply because Don Bailey has been driving our offense from day one in 2010 till today. And what we have done here offensively is something now will be the target for us next season. But it is a huge mountain to climb for anybody whenever you start saddling up in August. And to that end, you have to realize how good Justin Arias has been through a 12-game stretch, how consistently great he has been. Yeah, he threw 2 picks today, but he's the reason we won because he kept them off balance. He took a team that was pretty hot on defense, coming off of 2 straight wins, and made sure they stayed put. And even though our defense was allowing them to creep back in it, he just literally reached out with his left hand and said, "No more way you can come." The last part of that is what a great job by our defensive coaches and getting our depth to come up to play. The last interception was made by Kyrie Livingston Coleman. He's our 4th corner. And for him to be able to go onto the game and play like he's been playing all game is just a mark of the quality and width and depth of this team. So I'm extremely proud of us, and since I've answered all the questions already, I'll be seeing you later.
I think you said in the press conference that the season goal, or one of the season goals, is to win every home game.
Be undefeated at home.
So you've done that now. How do you
check? It's just what you do. If you're a good team, you never get beat at home. It's a 7-0 win. It's a 7-0 lead when you walk onto the field. And oh, by the way, the 2 losses we have in conference this year, one was by 3 and the other was by 5 because the other team had a 7-point lead when they began. Home field advantage is something we're just now beginning to assert at Idaho State.
Might not be over yet, obviously, but it sounds like no matter what happens, you're proud of this season and what you guys have been able to do.
Yeah, because the one thing about the playoffs is that if 24 teams make it, 23 teams cry their way out of it. I'm telling you, it almost makes me cry thinking about it. Because unless you win the national championship, it ends on a bummer. It's a bummer. And if we don't get in, this is better. Then unless we're going to win the national championship, this is better. Because we get to sit there at Thanksgiving and say, hey, we could be those guys because, oh, that's all right, we're not in, but we won our last game. And guess what? Whether we're in or weren't in, we had a great year. A season that no one foresaw except for our coaches and then our players.
That said, I get the feeling you'd like to be in the playoffs.
Well, I like raspberry pie too, so there's a lot of things in the world that I like, and I want to just enjoy today for today. When we went 2-3 to start the season, we said we're going to live in the now. And the now is we just kissed 21 seniors goodbye in one of the coolest ceremonies I've ever been involved in as a head coach under Steve Schock's tutelage. That was just fabulous. And I got to see it from up in the press box doing radio, but it was an awesome deal. The group picture that we took with the parents and those players, that might be the neatest picture I've ever seen a football team take. Because at the start of this season, who thought that we would be at the end of the season as Weaver State celebrating such magnificence? So I'm proud of us, and if the selection committee likes us, we go. If the selection committee thinks our underwear stinks, guess what? We'll wash it, and guess they got to deal with us in 2:15.
You talked about your depth, and to have a guy like McSurdy, fill in for Xavier and have the kind of game that he had must be pretty big for you.
I think the biggest thing about Dan's performance today is a combination of Dan and the guy that coaches him. Now, it's pretty rare you go into any football program and your offensive coordinator who coaches your quarterbacks also coaches running backs. Now, we don't have a GA. We don't have another coach that coaches those guys. The quarterbacks and running backs sit together. And so to have Don Bailey also coach the best quarterback in the United States with a running back who comes off the bench to have the 3rd highest running yardage in a single game at Idaho State is a testimony to his ability as a running back coach. So with Bales, I don't know what it is. Quarterback, running back, man, he should make a decision because he's got a little bit of a split personality back there. We're good at running back and quarterback. So I wish he'd make up his mind to decide which one he's going to be really, really good at. And oh, by the way, at 6,600 and some yards, No one's ever been better than him at his position the way he does it.
And he's, almost fitting that a senior comes in for a junior on senior night. So it seemed like the seniors were the biggest reason.
That's the cool thing about sports. This is not written in Hollywood. Hollywood follows us. And that's the way it goes.
The 21 seniors you mentioned, Dex says talked about it. There were moments where he came to talk to you about things. What are some memories you have from them where maybe you had to kind of convince them that it's going to be all right, that it's going to work itself out?
Well, I'm telling you, it's craziness that there's not one recruited athlete left from the recruiting class that was freshman when we got here. That's craziness. And to that end, it just shows you how the guys that were here that have lasted through 4 full seasons have understood what the greater goal was going to be, and they deserve the credit. We took that team picture with their families out there, and you know what's going on out there? The growth of 50 years of stories. And the stories that they won't tell about me, and they won't tell about Coach Bailey or any of the other coaches that have been here for 4 years. They'll tell about themselves, and they'll talk about the guys who were here that missed the ride. And they'll talk about the great players that were on this team who gave everything they had, and it was not enough to barely win 2 or 3 games. I mean, the Josh Hills and the Rod Rumbles and the Kevin Yost, Mark Clampets, all the great players who never had this great opportunity. These guys can selfishly say, well, we were just better than you guys, and none of them were recruited. None of those 8 walk-on guys that are in scholarships, nobody went to their house, sat on their couch, went to their high school and said, hey, where's your video? They came here because they wanted to be Bengals, and they proved it more so than maybe all the other scholarship guys that were in their class.
I have to ask, that last touchdown you scored, you could have nailed the ball and ended the game, but was it important to have a final score reflective of, beating Weber State handily?
No, we haven't beaten Weber State for 11 years, and 3 years ago they went for 2 on every touchdown. They can have it back. And they had it back on that play. We're even.